I checked my phone and the world stopped spinning as I played the voice message from my daughter. Her voice trembling but cold as she told me, "Mom, I'm so sorry, but you won't be flying with us tomorrow. Mark doesn't want to travel with you, and he says it's his vacation too, so we've canceled your ticket." After 5 years of being their live-in nanny, their chef, and their emotional punching bag for free, I was being discarded the night before a luxury trip I was promised as a thank you for my service. How could a daughter do this to her own mother after everything I sacrificed to keep her household running? Was I wrong to feel like this was the ultimate betrayal? Or would you have seen this coming from a mile away? I'm sitting here in the dark, surrounded by my packed suitcases, and I honestly need you to tell me if I'm overreacting, or if this is as cruel as it feels. Let me take you back to how this all started, because this didn't happen in a vacuum. 5 years ago, my daughter, Sarah, and her husband, Mark, were struggling. They had just had their first child, my grandson Leo, and Mark's business was failing. They couldn't afford childcare, and Sarah was on the verge of a breakdown trying to balance a part-time job and a newborn. I was living in a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment, working a job I liked, and preparing for a peaceful retirement. But when Sarah called me crying, saying they were going to lose their house if they didn't get help, I didn't hesitate. I sold my furniture, gave up my lease, and moved into their cramped guest room. I became the on-call grandma. At first, it was wonderful to be so close to Leo, but the dynamic shifted almost instantly. Mark, who has always been a bit entitled, started treating me less like a family member and more like a servant. It began with small things, like leaving his dirty dishes on the table for me to clear, or asking if I could just quickly run his shirts to the dry cleaners. Within 6 months, I was doing all the grocery shopping, all the cooking, all the laundry, and waking up with the baby at 3 a.m. so Sarah and Mark could get their beauty sleep. I never complained because I loved them, and I thought I was helping them build a future. As Mark's business finally took off and the money started rolling in, they moved into a massive 6-bedroom house. I thought finally, things will get easier. But instead the expectations just grew. They stopped saying thank you. They started criticizing the way I seasoned the chicken, or how I folded the towels. Mark would walk past me in the hallway without even making eye contact, as if I was a ghost haunting his mansion. I was exhausted, depleted, and felt completely invisible in my own family. To make matters worse, Mark started making snide comments about my free ride. He'd mentioned how much the property taxes were, or how much the utility bills had gone up since I moved in, completely ignoring the fact that my unpaid labor was saving them at least $5,000 a month in professional nanny and housekeeping fees. Sarah would just look at her phone during these rants, never once defending me. I remember one specific Tuesday when I had a high fever. I could barely stand, let alone chase a toddler and a newborn. When I asked Sarah if she could take over for just 2 hours so I could sleep, she sighed and said, "Mom, I have a Pilates class and then a lunch meeting. Can't you just push through?" That was the reality of my life. I was a tool to be used until the gears ground down. And even then, I was expected to keep turning. I spent my weekends deep cleaning their baseboards and steam cleaning their carpets while they went to wineries and high-end galas. I told myself it was for the kids. I told myself that once they were older, Sarah and Mark would realize how much I had given up. I sacrificed my own social life, my hobbies, and my health. My back would ache every night from lifting children and scrubbing floors, but I'd just take an extra aspirin and keep going. I even started selling some of my old jewelry, pieces I had inherited from my own mother, just to have a bit of pocket money, so I wouldn't have to ask Mark for $10 every time I needed a coffee or a new pair of socks. It was humiliating, but I did it out of love. Then came the big trip. For years, Mark had talked about taking a month-long luxury tour of Europe once he hit a certain profit milestone. 6 months ago, he announced they were finally doing it. He sat me down and said, "Mom, you've done so much for us. We want you to come to Italy, France, and Greece with us. Everything is on us. You deserve this." I was so touched. I actually cried. I spent months researching museums, looking at maps of Rome, and buying comfortable walking shoes. I even spent my own limited savings on a few nice outfits because I didn't want to look like a frumpy nanny in their vacation photos. I was the one who packed the kids' suitcases. They have 3 children now. And I was the one who spent the last 3 days deep cleaning the house, so they wouldn't come back to a mess. I did all the heavy lifting while Sarah and Mark went out for pre-vacation spa days. I even stayed up until 2 a.m. the night before the voice message, hand-washing Sarah's delicate silk dresses, so she'd have them ready for the Mediterranean sun. The day before we were supposed to leave, I was exhausted but excited. I had my passport on the nightstand and my bags by the door. Then Mark and Sarah went out for a final date night to celebrate their success. I stayed home, bathed the kids, put them to bed and waited. That's when the notification popped up. Not a face-to-face conversation, not a phone call, but a 60-second voice message that shattered my heart into a million pieces. Sarah's voice was so casual, yet so final. She said Mark felt suffocated by my presence and that they wanted this to be a nuclear family-only experience. She told me I should use the month to relax at the house while they were gone. She didn't even mention that they were basically using me to watch the house while they lived it up on the tickets I thought were a gift for my years of unpaid labor. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. They didn't just cancel my dream. They waited until the very last second, after I had done all the work to make their trip possible, to throw me away. They wanted the benefits of my labor. The clean house, the packed bags, the cared for children, without having to look at my face while they enjoyed the rewards. I realized then that Mark had planned this all along. He wanted me to get everything ready, and then he wanted me gone. Sarah, my own flesh and blood, had just gone along with it. So that's where I was. Standing in a silent house, holding a phone that felt like a lead weight, realizing that I had given up my entire life for people who viewed me as an inconvenience they could delete with a button. I had a choice to make. I could be the good mother, and stay here, watch their house, and wait for them to come back and resume my life of servitude, or I could finally stand up for myself. Before I tell you the absolute chaos I unleashed next, and how I ensured they would never forget this betrayal, I want you to pause right now. Go to the comments and tell me, what would you do? Would you stay and keep the peace for the sake of the grandkids, or would you burn the bridge down? I'm reading every single comment because I still can't believe what happened next. I didn't reply to the message. I didn't scream, and I didn't cry anymore. Instead, I went into the kitchen and made myself a cup of tea. I realized that since I wasn't going to Europe, I didn't need to be in this house anymore. In fact, I didn't need to be their nanny anymore. I called my sister, who lives 3 states away and has been begging me to move near her for years. I told her everything. She was livid. She told me to get out of there immediately. I spent the next 4 hours doing something I should have done years ago. I unpacked the kids' bags. Every single outfit I had meticulously coordinated and folded. I put them back in the drawers. But I didn't just put them back. I mixed them all up. I put the toddler's socks in the baby's drawer, and the baby's onesies in the bottom of the toy chest. I took Mark's expensive noise-canceling headphones, the ones he needed for the flight, and I hid them behind the detergent in the laundry room. The snacks I had prepared for the flight? I threw them in the trash. The itineraries I had printed? Shredded. But that wasn't the climax. I remembered that the house was in both their names, but I was the one who managed the utilities and the household staff because Mark was too busy. I called the house cleaning service and the landscaping crew and told them their services were no longer needed effective immediately. I even called the pool guy and told him we were switching companies and not to come for the next month. Then, I did the one thing that I knew would hurt Mark the most. Mark is obsessed with his image. He had a massive send-off party planned for the next morning where his business partners were coming over for a brunch before the limo arrived. I called the catering company and canceled the order, telling them the event was postponed due to a family emergency. I also called the private car service and told them there had been a change of plans and to cancel the airport transfer. I wanted them to feel every single ounce of the inconvenience I had been shielding them from for years. I wanted them to wake up to the reality of what life looks like without a ghost managing every detail of their existence. I felt a strange sense of calm as I moved through the house, systematically undoing 5 years of quiet devotion. I went into the pantry and took all the easy meals, the pre-prepped school lunches and the frozen dinners I had made, and I loaded them into my car. If I wasn't eating here, nobody was. I even took the extra rolls of high-quality toilet paper I had just bought and put them in my trunk. It sounds petty, I know, but when you've been treated like a servant, you realize that even the smallest comforts are things you provided. By 4 a.m., I had moved all my belongings into my car. My car was packed to the roof with the remnants of my life. I left the house keys on the kitchen island along with a very short note. It said, "Since you want a nuclear family experience, you can start with the housework, the cooking, the childcare, and the morning's canceled brunch. My resignation is effective immediately. Don't call me." I drove away as the sun was beginning to rise. 2 hours later, my phone started exploding. It was Mark. Then Sarah. Then Mark again. They had woken up to 3 screaming kids, no breakfast, no catering for their partners, and a house that was suddenly empty of the woman who made their lives possible. Sarah sent a flurry of texts. "Mom, where are you? This isn't funny. The limo is coming in 3 hours and we can't find Leo's passport. Mark is furious. Please come back and we can talk about this." I didn't respond. I blocked both of them. I found out later through my sister that the morning was a total disaster. Mark's business partners arrived at 9 a.m. to a house in total disarray, with Mark sweating over a stove trying to figure out how to make pancakes and Sarah in tears because the baby had a blowout and there were no clean diapers in the nursery. Without me there to manage the children, Mark and Sarah couldn't even get out of the door on time. They missed their first-class flight to Paris because they couldn't find the documents I had tucked away for safekeeping. Documents I had forgotten to mention were in the safe in the basement. They had to pay thousands of dollars to rebook, and when they finally got to Europe, they had no one to watch the kids. Their romantic luxury getaway turned into a month-long nightmare of changing diapers in hotel rooms and arguing over who had to stay back while the other went to dinner. I heard they spent most of their time in Italy screaming at each other in the lobby of 5-star hotels, because they didn't know how to handle their own children for more than 2 hours at a time. Mark's business partners were offended by the canceled brunch, and his reputation took a hit for being unorganized and unprofessional. Apparently, one of the partners even backed out of a deal because he saw how Mark spoke to Sarah during the chaos. It was poetic justice. They wanted me out of their nuclear family picture, and they got exactly what they asked for: the raw, unedited, and overwhelming reality of their own lives. It's been 3 months now. I'm living in a beautiful little cottage near my sister. It's small, but it's mine. There are no dirty dishes that aren't mine, no laundry that belongs to a man who won't look me in the eye, and no crying babies at 3 a.m. I have a part-time job at a local library, and for the first time in 5 years my time is my own. I spend my afternoons reading by the fireplace or walking in the park with my sister. My health has improved significantly. The chronic back pain is gone, and I've actually gained back some of the weight I lost from stress. Sarah has tried to reach out through relatives, claiming she didn't realize how much I did and that it was all Mark's idea. She sent an email through a cousin saying the kids miss Grandma's cooking and that the house is falling apart. But I know the truth now. I wasn't a mother or a grandmother to them. I was a convenience. They didn't value me. They valued what I did for them. If they really loved me, they wouldn't have waited until the night before a trip to kick me out. They wouldn't have used a voice message to deliver the news. I've decided to stay and see no contact until I receive a genuine apology that doesn't involve a request for babysitting or housekeeping. I miss my grandkids terribly, and that's the hardest part. I worry about them, wondering if they're being fed properly, or if they're missing our bedtime stories. But I realized I can't teach them how to be good people if I'm allowing their parents to treat me like trash. I have to be a model of self-respect for them. I want them to grow up knowing that you don't treat people as disposable, even if they are family. Sarah keeps trying to guilt-trip me through my sister, saying I'm breaking up the family, but the truth is, the family was already broken. I was just the glue holding the shattered pieces together. And I'm tired of being covered in sticky residue. I had to choose myself, and honestly, it's the best decision I've ever made. I've started a small garden in my backyard, and as I watch the flowers bloom, I feel like I'm blooming too. I'm rediscovering who I am outside of being a nanny. This experience taught me that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who will take the most advantage of your kindness. You have to set boundaries, even with your own children, because if you don't, They will eventually think your sacrifice is a requirement rather than a gift. Never let anyone make you feel like a guest in a home you are building for them. You deserve to be at the table, not just serving the food. I hope my story serves as a wake-up call for anyone out there who is giving too much of themselves to people who wouldn't even give them a seat on a plane. If you think I did the right thing by leaving them in the lurch, please like this video. It helps me feel a little less alone in this mess. If you've ever dealt with an entitled family member, subscribe to this channel and share your story in the comments. I'll be down there responding and looking for advice on how to move forward. Your support means the world to me, and it reminds me that I'm not just a convenience, but a person with a voice. Thank you for listening to my story and for being the support system I didn't have that morning. I'll see you all in the next story.